Good morning. Today we have with us Mrs. Penny Austin, who is the author of 5 books, and she is a Christian fiction writer. And so we want to ask her some questions and hear her responses. And so I'm glad you're tuning in to our A is for Authors. Good morning, Mrs. Austin.
Good morning, Miss Rose, and thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Hey, you're quite welcome. You are a delightful person, and I am just so happy to have you on our show this morning.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad we are finally connected. So, my first question to you is, what has inspired you to write? Because you've just been on a roll these last 5 years.
Well, I have always mostly been with poetry. I had wrote poetry from the time I was probably a young teenager, and I went on mission trips and I wrote poetry about my trips. And I got to where when I was working, I traveled all over the United States in my job as I was what they called a site acquisition person. I leased property to put the communication towers on. And I met a lot of wonderful people and went a lot of different places. And I actually, one night, I had a dream about it. And I thought, you know what? I said, I could start writing. And I had friends that kept telling me, well, you got such wonderful stories. Why don't you tell some of them? And I thought, well, I don't want them to be about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing my books. The first one I wrote was The Second Chance. And my family has had a lot of problems. We've had a lot of sicknesses, a lot of deaths. Some of them through sickness, some of them through accidents, young and old. And I thought, maybe I could write something that would help other people get through these times.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I got started with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So second chance was your chance again to put out some of your thoughts about
Yes, it
things.
was.
And now most of your books all of your books are Christian fiction.
Yes.
And so you said that some people were experiencing different things in their lives, and you decided to put it on paper. Do you think by putting these stories on paper that they inspire others to lean on He who has created us?
I'm hoping so. That was my basic reason for it. I wanted to be able to help other people through the hard times that I've had. And it was just an idea that, sometimes you can talk to people, but they're in a place where they're not really understanding. But I thought if I could write stories where people were helped through God,
Mm-hmm.
that it would help them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm hoping it is.
Now, is there a character in your stories or one of your books that kind of exemplifies the strength or the will that you possess? You have a favorite character?
Actually, they're all my favorite. Really. They each have their own strengths,
Mm-hmm.
and they each have their own problems. And I can't say that I could pick out exactly one that would be my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I think they all are.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that it gets across to people that they do have the strength in God
Mm-hmm.
to go through what they go through.
Mm-hmm. So you said you traveled throughout the U.S. So is there really a hidden valley?
There is a town in Virginia. It's outside of Roanoke. When you come out of the mountains, there's a valley there. I was there leasing property, and I met a lot of the people there, and they were so kind and so helpful and such loving people, and they were very Christian-like, and the church people at the churches there were very Christian people, and that's why I placed it in a valley. I called it Hidden Valley. That's not the name of the town, and to be honest, I can't even remember the name of the town now.
Mm-hmm.
but it's outside of Roanoke, Virginia.
So it left an impression on you.
They did. They left a very good impression.
Well, I was reading your Second Chance, that first book you had written, when I was driving through California, and it had all the hills, and you were going down through the valley, and I just like, she has made a good depiction of the landscape, so you could be almost anywhere. If you've been in that environment, you kind of feel it, and so you painted a great picture of where it was located, and I was imagining as I was riding that I was really on the road going to Hidden Valley. So I just wondered, was there really a place called that?
There is really a town, but it's not called Hidden Valley. I made up the name Hidden Valley. I don't like to use actual names unless I ask permission.
Now you live in a small community,
yes.
and Hidden Valley is a small town.
Yes.
So, does that play a role in your writing to know how people act or seem, or just get the personality of a character from living in a small town?
Yes, it does, and I love the small towns. The town that I was raised in was in Illinois. It was a little bigger than Fort Meade and Frostproof, where I'm at now. But it seems like the people there get closer to each other. Small towns have a tendency to draw out people, I believe, and I love that.
So you lived in Fort Meade for about 30 years?
I came back here in 1984. My brother was here and he was dying of cancer, and I come to take care of him, and I've been here ever since.
So you must have liked us pretty good, huh?
Well, I was born here, actually.
Oh, okay.
And my family, you know where Carlton Apartments are? My grandfather Lightsey owned that farm there. And I was born on that farm, right here in Fort Meade. So, but I came every summer because I had a lot of family here, and Mama and me would come. My dad didn't, but me and my mother did. And then my parents finally decided to retire here. So I've actually been back here since 1984, and I'm so happy I did.
So you're rooted in small towns, and so therefore you can write about small town communities and people and relationships. So I think that I haven't read all of them, so I can't speak to all of them, but it's just that you can feel, you can feel the writing, and it's nice when an author can take you to the place and you meet the people that you meet in that, and they become a part of you. I commend you, and I just encourage everybody to pick up your books and start to read them. Now, not all of them, but most of them start off with a scripture.
Yes.
Why is that?
I think they all do, actually.
Okay.
Because usually the scripture, if you look at them closely, relate to what I'm writing in the books. And I was raised, my mother was a very good Christian woman. I was raised in the church. I was raised on scripture. And it just, to me, it gives a basis for what's happening.
And so you active in the church?
Oh, I was raised, I don't remember when I wasn't in church, whether I wanted to or not. That was not a question. We got up on Sunday morning, we went to church, and that was it.
Well, I had a lady in my church, and she stayed on the opposite street of the church, and she said the very same thing. She said, you didn't have to think about whether you wanted to go. You just went because that's where your mother sent you.
Yes.
And at 97, she was walking to church still because she really, she said, that's a part of me. I have to come and whatever. So that background builds upon things, and so it's refreshing. You come across so much literature. It's refreshing to have a story that is not. I'm a Hallmark person. I just love that. I know what's going to happen, and I know that somebody's going to be renewed and refreshed from after reading that story or whatever. And so your books are like that. You feel a sense of freshness, of newness, of after you read it.
That's what I'm trying to do. I have 17 grandchildren, and some of the literature that these kids pick up in school and stuff, it gives me chills to think that they're reading them. And I want them to have something, and they do. They read my books. And that was another reason that I wanted to write them, because I want them and other children, young people, to have the opportunity to read something that is Christian-based and something that they can learn from.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about your grandchildren. You have grandchildren, great-grandchildren,
and great.
So you have a legacy. That's wonderful to have,
Yes.
have all of that family. Now, do any of them have that writing gene?
Yes, my Jalea just turned 11, and she has, at school, they've asked her to write little plays and stuff, and she just loves it. And she writes little stories and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think she will eventually. She will
develop that skill. Yeah. Well, that's nice. Now, is there something that I haven't asked you? Because I can get started and start talking and talking. So.
Well, really, like I say, we have gone through so much in our family, from sicknesses, from cancer. I had a great-grandson was killed in a motorcycle accident just before he turned 21. I lost a great-grandbaby. His mother had the top down on the car, and he fell out and under the wheel. So we have been through all of this. And excuse me, I hope that my books help people to find solace in God. That is one of the reasons that I went on mission trips when I started on my poetry, and all my poems I wrote while I was either going or there or coming back. And I probably got that high of poetry, and that's where I started. But I love telling stories, and I have told people stories about my travels and stuff. And I had friends that encouraged me to try writing, and I did, and I love it. Having trouble with this last book because it is a little difficult for me because it involves someone with cancer and stuff. And it took me about I wrote probably these 5 in the length of time it's took me to write that 6. But I'm getting there with it. But I just enjoy it, and I love people, and I want to be of help to people. And that's my reason for it.
Yeah, and missions trips help you see the other side and see and make you, and so you can bring all that into your writings and stuff. So tell us, how do we get your books?
I go through, I'm self-published through a company called Book Baby. And if anybody wants to get my books, all they have to do is go on bookbaby/bookshop.com and put in my name, and it'll bring up all my books and how they can order.
And that's Book Baby?
It's Book Baby Bookshop.
Bookshop, okay, all right. So we'll make sure we put that on our end credits so that if anyone wants to get a copy, they can order it. But we really appreciate you being here today and telling us about your writing and how you got started. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are interested in how you got started. And I think, has it been a book a year in the last 5 years?
Yes, it basically has. This one took a little longer because it's very detailed on the Rodeo Ranch. And I had a good friend that was a barrel racer, and I worked with her with the horses and stuff because I raised horses at the time. So it was kind of my favorite book to write. But like I say, the one I'm writing now is taking longer. I was working on it at the same time as that one, but I'm hoping that I'll have it ready to come out around Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, yeah, I could just say, boy, you know a whole lot about a whole lot of different things. I say, she really must have gone a lot of different places and know all
I
of that.
basically, when I was doing SIDAC, I worked for several different communication companies. I worked for AT&T, Verizon, Cricket, and leased property from to build their antennas on. And in my travels, all up and down the East Coast and the central part of the state, the only place out west I've been was Arizona that I worked. But I learned so much from so many different people. And you get acquainted with these people. They become your friend for a very short period of time. And there are some I still get in touch with. But traveling has helped in order to be able to write about different things. And I love doing it. Don't do it now. I mean, I'm 85 years old. I kind of decided I need to stay home now. But I do enjoy traveling and meeting different people.
And so you started, how old were you when your first book was published?
I didn't start writing my books until I was in my 70s. I would love to have done it a lot younger. And that's why I encouraged Jalea, because she likes to write things. If I had have started younger, I might have wrote a whole lot more.
Well, this shows that it's never too late, that you can
it's
start
not.
whenever you get ready.
I was probably around between 75 and 76. I've been writing them for about 10 years.
Okay. Good. So I think you have an interesting message to leave the world, or that can make a mark on other people. And so I appreciate you, and I enjoy you. So I thank you for joining us for A is for Authors, and know that they're available at the Fort Meade Public Library if you want to come and check it out. Or you can go and purchase one. And do you know how much they cost about?
I believe they're around $11, $12 on the baby.
Yeah, so I know that some people just like to have their own libraries, and so we encourage you to go and check out the site, and also come to the library so that you can check them out. So thank you for joining us for A is for Authors, and thank you, Mrs.
Well,
Austin.
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.